fans. T-Boz is 13-3 here with top shelf guest, St. Paul, Minnesota native, Hill Murray pioneer, and current owner of Let's Play Hockey magazine, Bryan Zollman. This episode is sponsored by Hertel Law, Ryan Flagg at State Farm Insurance, Dooley's Pub, Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, and the St. Paul Shop. Chippewa Valley Sports Medicine has been committed to the healthcare needs of patients in western Wisconsin since 1954. The orthopedic surgeons and athletic trainers serve many area schools in the Chippewa Valley. Mogi.
Hey, this is great. We are at the renowned St. Paul Hotel, courtesy of our friend Jeff Olson, the renowned hockey author. And we're here following our hockey roundtable that was moderated by our guest at Subtext Bookstore in downtown St. Paul, Mr. Bryan Zollman. So, Bryan, thanks so much for, first of all, moderating the hockey roundtable, which was amazing. We had some great guests there, and also from making the trip down from Sauk Center, Minnesota.
Yeah, thanks for having me. You know, it's always fun to talk hockey. I'll drive for that.
Okay, it's worth the drive.
Greatest sport in the world to talk about.
Absolutely.
And here we are. You were raised on the east side of St. Paul, Minnesota. Did you have a big family, and were there any other hockey players in the family?
Not quite. I grew up over on Mariah, so kind of Mounds Park area. You know, people say that they come from a broken family. My family was never really put together.
Okay.
My mom and my dad, it's different, but I grew up with my mom until I was about 11. So I lived on the east side of St. Paul until I was about 11 years old. Okay. My dad was married and he lived in Oakdale, and my mom thought, well, I think you got a better opportunity, you know, as far, you know, she was poor, she was, you know, single mom. So I went to live with my dad and my stepmom and in Oakdale. So, and then played in the Tartan Hockey Association over there until 10th grade or 9th grade. Played Bantams actually, and then I defected over to Hill Murray. But my roots are always in St. Paul. We used to, you know, every time I come back down here, I like to drive through the old neighborhood, and it looks so small. You know, back then it was so big, but I was just a little kid, you know, and you know, the fence, I used to play wiffle ball in the backyard. I would pretend I was Hoskin Powell or Butch Weiniger or whoever, and just toss the wiffle ball up and try to hit over the neighbor's fence. You know, now I go look at it and I was like, man, what a wimp I was. That thing's about 80 feet away, you know. But you know, I wonder how many of my wiffle balls are still stuck in the neighbor's gutter up there, you know. Yeah, so, you know, East Sider always, you know. The guys who are born and raised on the East Side, you know, there's always a part of that stays with them. So
yeah, I agree with that. So on Mariah Street, were you north of 94 or south of 94?
I was south of 94.
Okay, so you're really right in the Mounds Park, right by the park.
Right, Mounds Park. We would go there and you know, you got the cliffs there.
Yeah.
And that's where we play ball, play football or baseball or whatever. And you know, street hockey was in the neighborhood, so we play street hockey or in the driveways. Yeah, good times, a lot of good times.
Yeah, absolutely.
When were you introduced to the game of hockey?
It must have been young because I don't really remember.
Okay.
You know, I just remember being a kid. I remember going to the outdoor rink, which you don't see a lot of nowadays, but that's kind of where we all cut our teeth back then. In street hockey, but started playing association hockey. My dad was in Oakdale, so I played in Tartan from when I was a mite. But I want to say I was probably 3-4 years old when I was, you know, started skating. And I remember my dad couldn't skate. You know, he grew up, didn't know a thing about hockey. I don't even know how I got into hockey. My uncles kind of partially raised me in my early years. My mom's brothers, and, you know, they were always at her house and stuff, and we were always watching sports and watching the North Stars, and they would bring me to North Stars games. You know, we get standing room only tickets. And
but you were there.
Yeah, I was there.
What did the ticket cost back then?
I want to say $2 to $3 probably.
Isn't that something, getting into an NHL game for $2 or $3?
Yeah, just like now.
Yeah,
only put some zeros behind it.
Right. But I remember, you know, going with my uncles, and they would just drink the tap beer, and I'd just be there, and they were there partying, having fun, and yelling at the refs, and waiting for a fight to break out, right? That's the way the NHL was back then in the late 70s and early 80s. Yeah. You know, Jack Carlson and those guys, Brad Maxwell, and, it was fun, great memories, you know, and listening to Al Shaver, the post game on the way home in the car.
Oh, yeah.
You know, yeah, it was fun. It was fun.
Well, looking back at that, did you have a hockey hero growing up?
Yeah, Gretzky.
Okay.
Gretzky was my guy. I think he was a lot of people's guy back then. I remember when his book, From the Backyard Rink to the Stanley Cup, came out. One of the first books I read. It was thick. It was a real thick book. But he was all over my wall, you know, in my room. So he was a guy. Whenever the from the North Star standpoint, I was always a Broughton guy. But I love the North Stars. Still do. Miss them. Oh boy, you know?
Yeah. Best jerseys ever.
Yeah.
I liked it when they added the little bit of black to it. I thought that really made that jersey pop.
Yeah.
Especially the white one, but yeah. But the when the Wild wear their 78s, those are pretty classy too.
Those are pretty cool.
Yeah, I like that. Cool.
And the Wild's a great organization, and certainly a huge Wild fan. But there's just something different when you're 8 years old and not 48 years old. You know, it's just the game's a little different when you're 8 years old and looking up to those guys on the ice.
Yeah.
You know?
Thinking hopefully maybe someday I'll be out there with them.
Someday, yeah. We all have that dream, and you finally get to the age where you're like, okay, it's probably not going to happen.
Oh, I don't know. I think there's still a chance.
There's still a chance.
As long as we're playing, there's still a chance. So, when you grew up, what position did you start playing? When we were doing some research on you, I noticed you played center in high school. Were you always a forward, or? Always
a forward. Yeah, I guess center and wing, you know, depending on wherever the coach put me. But was more, I was never really a great skater, more of a hands guy. You know, I could kind of dilly-dally with the puck pretty well. But, you know, I wasn't beating anyone around the outside. You know, I was going to have to try and put it under their stick or through their legs and try to get them spinning a little bit. But
no Connor McDavid in you, huh?
No.
Coach probably wanted you to get to the middle anyways. You don't see a lot of guys scoring from the outside, right?
Yeah, well.
Tell our kids, get in there, get on the inside.
You know, we were just talking about that, how, you know, the game, it became such a lane hockey, or stay in your lane, get the puck deep and then go get it, whatever. Yep. I think we need to get back to some creativity, and we have an article we run in that Jack Blatherwick wrote about creativity, and how Gretzky really revolutionized cutting to the middle and going into the zone, and then even kind of pirouetting that back, kind of letting the play develop, letting your guys come back, catch up with the play a little bit. Mm-hmm. Today's game is all about speed. You're just trying to go gangbusters to the net, but I think sometimes you got to slow it down a little bit and, try to make things happen.
Yeah. So you mentioned we did an article, and I know we did touch on it in the introduction that you're the owner and editor of Let's Play Hockey Magazine. We're going to get into that because we want to know all about that. But we've got some questions we want to ask you about your youth playing days.
Sure.
So, JC, evidently he went to Hill Murray High School with one of our former guests, Mark Strobel, and his twin brother, Mike. So we're looking to get some info. What can you tell us about Mark and his personality?
Well, Mark, I can tell you the one word that comes to my mind with Mark is leader. He really was that guy for our team. And Mike too. They both, they were just kind of a tandem. Characters, but at the same time, they kind of had that resiliency and that toughness, kind of that East Side, grit.
Grit, yep.
Just like, screw you, I'm getting that puck in the corner, and hey guys, we're not losing this game. I remember we were playing against White Bear, and I had a puck right on the doorstep, and this is in the section finals in 91 to go to state. We were trailing, and I didn't bury it. I get back to the bench, and Mike Strobel looks at me, and I won't, use the actual words, but he basically said, what's wrong with you? You got to bury that. I mean, you got to put that puck in the net.
Did he have to go to confession after he made that comment to you?
He might have.
Probably.
He might have. But that was it with it. And a lot of people think Hill Murray's, very skilled teams. That team that I played on in 91, we were real tough. People don't notice that, and the Strobels kind of led that in our toughness, and not just physically tough, but mentally tough. Kind of that refuse to lose type attitude. I remember captain's practice. Mark Strobel lit me up, open ice, and just drilled me, and I was like, okay, all right, this is the big leagues. I better keep my head up, right?
Okay,
because he wasn't trying to hurt me. But he's saying, hey, new guy, you're on varsity now. You better keep your head up or you're going to get hurt and you're going to turn the puck over in the neutral zone and now we got a problem.
Yeah.
So there's a reason why Mark is had such a long, good coaching career. Is very passionate, very knowledgeable, and he does it for the right reasons. He's just one of the better guys that I've come to know in the game of hockey.
So he's back in town after his stint at Wisconsin. He's coaching St. Thomas Academy now.
Correct.
What is he going to bring to that team, and what can we expect to see from that team throughout the season, his first year there?
I think you are going to see kind of the things I talked about. You're going to see a team that holds each other accountable. I think it's not going to be a team of individuals. He's going to stress the team game and develop a system. He's a winner. And I think that, whenever you have someone in charge that is a winner, good things happen. So he's great with kids. Like I said, he's in it for the right reasons. He's not just worried about, churning out Division I hockey players. He's committed to churning out, good fathers, good husbands, things that are going to carry on later in life. So they got a good one with Mark. They made a good choice there.
Nice.
Sweet. We've got a hockey playing buddy from back in Eau Claire that also played hockey with you, a guy by the name of Chad Brennan. Obviously nowhere near the competitor that Mark Strobel is, but we still wanted to give him a little bit of a shout out.
Yeah.
Any little insight to him?
Yeah, absolutely. Brennan came on as a sophomore. He's a Harding kid. Him and the Godbout brothers, Jason and Brent Godbout, came over from Harding. Didn't know much about Chad. I guess he was, my game and Chad's game were kind of similar. We weren't fast. We weren't zipping in and out of traffic, but we knew what to do with the puck. And that's one thing I noticed about Chad is he knew what to do with the puck. He knew where the puck needed to get to, or he knew where the puck was going to end up, and he would be there. Very smart, headsy player. I want to say he was our third leading scorer as a sophomore that year when we won it. I'm pretty sure he was in that 35 to 40 point range. We didn't have any, 60, 70 point guys, which I think that helped us. We didn't, the year before we won it, Craig Johnson, I'm sure you guys know who Craig Johnson has, played for years with the LA Kings, actually got traded in the Gretzky trade. But he was a senior that the year before we won the state tournament, and Mr. Hockey finalist, exceptional skater, exceptional player, long NHL career. But I think when you have a player like that, you kind of always waiting around for them to do something, right? And it's easy for another team to shut that down, where you're rolling three lines and it's like, hey, we all got to contribute here. We all have to be accountable and try to make something happen and not wait for one or two guys to do it. That was kind of more our team in 91. Nobody really expected us to do what we did because we had graduated all our, high-end talent. Tony Gruba was another great player that graduated that year. Sean Murray, the goaltender, 3-4 D1 guys that we lost. And we were just kind of a bunch of no-names, but quite a few East Side kids that, just got together and let's play some hockey, right?
Nice. So on a side note, just so you know this, Chad's son, Sam, is playing at UW Superior this year. He'll be a freshman.
Okay.
So if you're ever up in that area, you might want to check that out.
I will check that out. I texted Chad a couple years ago. I can't remember what we were talking about. But he's a good guy.
Yeah.
Good guy. A heck of a baseball player, too.
Good golfer, too.
He's one of those guys.
Can do anything.
Yeah.
I hate those guys.
I know.
I can't walk and chew gum.
Yeah.
It's bad.
We noticed that too, Mo.
That's one of my buddies, too. Imagine what an enemy would say.
Well, we've talked about it. You won a state championship in 1991, and you scored the game-tying goal against Duluth East. What was it like to be a major contributor in that regard? And then what's it like playing in that, the greatest state tournament in the United States?
Well, I can tell you, it's your goal from whenever you're a kid. You watch it on TV. I remember growing up in elementary school and junior high, we would have it on TV at school. Just something we did in Minnesota. It's state tournament time. The game, our science teacher we'd watch the games. So
that's so awesome.
It was, that's if you were in school. A lot of kids ditched to go to the tournament. But so it was always a dream. And then when it happens, it's surreal. But you're in such a, you're caught up in the season, right? And the section playoffs. We talk about the state tournament, how great it is, and it's awesome. But section playoffs is awesome hockey to be a part of as a player because you're one and done, right? Yeah. State tournament, you got 3 games. You make it to state, you still got 3 games. You're in sections, you're one and done. We went to double overtime against Forest Lake, that year. So we were very close to not getting there. But as far as stepping out on the ice for a state tournament, it's really hard to describe. It's probably like, a woman trying to tell a guy how, what it's like to have a baby. You kind of got to experience it to really know how it feels. All the hard work you put in, all the practices, early morning practices, and just thinking about when you're 5, 6, 7 years old and wanting that and then getting that, it's Christmas morning. It's awesome.
So when you scored that game-tying goal, did you look at Strobel and say, I buried it that time?
I should have. Yeah, I gave Mark, there was a turnover in the offensive zone, and the puck kind of squirted out to me, and I gave it to Mark Strobel, and I gave him a horrible pass. I mean, if you watch the video, it's a horrendous pass, and he turns his body, makes a great play, and then dishes it back to me, and and then at that point, you just do what you're trained to do. You just react, right? Next thing you know, it's in the back of the net, and I mean, there was 18,000 people in the stands, but I think about 1,000 of them wanted Hill Murray to win. I think 17,000 wanted Duluth East to win.
I think Hill Murray's probably second in least favorite to Edina throughout the state. Yeah. Wouldn't you say?
I would say
somewhere in there.
Yeah, a close second. But yeah, and yeah, to be able to get on the scoring column there, just to play in the tournament was good enough for me, but be able to contribute, and that was our team. We had to get it from everybody.
And then you win. Wow, yeah. Amazing. So you were voted an assistant captain your senior season. So what leadership style did you bring that made you a big part of the leadership group on that team?
I was never a vocal guy. Matt Maurer, who had a huge tournament in 91. He was our captain. He was kind of more of our rah-rah guy. I guess more of a lead by example. Just making sure that, try to mentor the young kids and show them the ropes a little bit. And, but certainly not a fire up the locker room type of leadership at all, but just, show up on time, get your work in, make sure you're doing all right in the classroom, things like that. And just making sure we're all pulling in the same direction. At a private school, you're getting kids from all different communities that have, been coached by a bunch of different people. So they all come in with different styles, different philosophies, different attitudes, different backgrounds. So from a captain standpoint, you try to make sure that we're all on the same page. But we didn't really have any issues with any any kids getting out of line. I think the coaches usually took care of that. It's pretty easy being a captain. You just go out and work hard, and I always say I'm a coach now, and your best players have to be your hardest workers.
Yeah.
Because if they're not, then, well, if he's not working hard, then I guess I don't have to work hard. So there's some pressure with being a captain, but it's certainly a privilege to be able to wear one for a program like Hill Murray.
Yeah, I'll say.
Did you have the opportunity or pursue an opportunity after high school to keep playing?
The Rochester Mustangs called me, and
USHL juniors, yeah.
But this was back, when the USHL was kind of the only game in town. Yeah. And they talked to me and see if I was interested in playing. St. Thomas had some interest in me being both baseball and hockey, but baseball was kind of my better sport. So it was time to pursue that. And I'll be honest, hockey is a lot of work. It's a lot of work. And by the time I was a senior or done with our senior year there, there's a little bit of burnout. It's from 5 years old to 18 years old, you're going like gangbusters, and a lot of it's spring league, fall league, summer hockey. It's year-round commitment. So I wasn't good enough to really, get into that D1 proposition. Had that been the case, my decision might have been different. But I just wasn't a good enough skater, to really go to the next level. I think I could have played another year of juniors, but I weighed 145 pounds too. I would have got absolutely destroyed in junior hockey.
You weren't a big boy.
I was not.
No wonder Strobel knocked you over.
Yeah. Yeah.
So do you play it all now? Do you lace them up with the boys at all?
I played on Wednesday nights for a good period of time. Organized it up in Sauk Center where I live, and the older I got, the younger everyone else got. It seemed like, so a lot of our high school kids were skating, but here's really what happened: is I took a shot to my skate blade, and my skate blade broke. So I had to get new skates. So I got new skates, and they hurt my feet. And I said, "That hell with it."
That was it.
I thought hockey players were tough.
Well, most hockey players are tough.
Oh, you had them there, Mo. Okay.
Sorry, Brian. I'm sorry.
It's all good. It's all good.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, it's, I used to skate once a week. But once I got away from it, it's just hard to get back to it.
Skates are different now anyway, compared to what it was back in your day.
Yeah.
I mean, those one-piece construction, you can't bend them if you had to. I mean, it's like a ski boot.
Almost. Well, I was in love with my old skates, and they were so worn down. And I remember in '92 in the state tournament, the toe of my skate even came off. So I was skating in the state tournament with my front toes exposed.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, I was a Hill Murray kid whose dad went flip the bill for $300 skates.
Oh, man.
But I didn't want to get new skates. My senior year, I'm like, I don't want to break new skates in, and plus, a little nostalgic. It's like, well, we just won a state tournament. I'm going to keep everything that.
Oh yeah.
Superstitious.
Don't change anything.
So
yeah.
Oh yeah.
But then I bought a new pair in college, just for playing, pickup hockey. And I had them for 25 years, and I loved them. They're broken in perfect. And then to go through another new pair of skates, I don't know. It just
wasn't in your future.
No. But I should get back on the ice. I really should. I kind of miss it. I mean, I coached for years, coached some high school hockey, so I was on the ice quite a bit. But as far as playing men's league, all the guys that play men's league up in the town I live in are 22 years old. So It's hard for me to keep up.
Yeah. It's amazing how you look back and the game passes you up and you go, damn.
I know.
When did that happen?
Yeah. You go from a prospect to a suspect in a hurry.
We're going to give a quick shout out to a couple of our sponsors. Hertel Law, the law firm you want on your side, focusing on criminal defense and personal injury. Harry Hertel has been obtaining results for clients in the Chippewa Valley since 1981. When you need legal help, if injured or accused of a crime, call 715-832-4330 for a free in-person consultation. And State Farm Insurance. For all your family's insurance needs, see Ryan Flagg at State Farm Insurance in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. Ryan has been a proud backer of the hockey community for decades and continues to play the game himself. Mogi.
All right, so you're born and raised in St. Paul, Minnesota for the most part. I know you moved to Oakdale a little bit later. How'd you end up in Sauk Center, Minnesota?
Well, I met my wife down in Mankato. I went to Mankato State, and we moved to Osceola, Wisconsin. So that's where I got my first job as a journalist. I was a sports writer for Osceola, Wisconsin. I think got paid $19,000 out of college to cover sports in Osceola.
Wow.
And so we lived there for a couple years, and we decided I was going to start my own kind of a Let's Play Hockey type of publication, but a baseball one in Minnesota. So we wanted to move back to Minnesota. Well, this is kind of at the time when the housing boom, kind of like now a little bit, where houses were just too expensive. I mean, my wife was a stay-at-home mom, so that when we got married, we decided we're going to have a family. You're going to stay home, raise the kids. She could substitute teach, whatever. She's a teacher by trade, but so we really needed to find a place that was affordable. And the metro Twin Cities, St. Paul, Minneapolis at that time, or any of the suburbs really, was just not attainable for us, not affordable. So we started looking in central Minnesota. We thought central location would be good for this new publication we were going to start. And we just kind of started throwing darts, really. We went to a few different communities, and we ended up visiting Sauk Center, and we found a house that my wife liked. And, we said, let's give it a shot. And, that was 24 years ago. So,
wow.
Nice.
Yeah. But it's been good. It's people knock small town living, but I love it. It's a great place to raise a family. When things kind of go sideways, you always got neighbors, and community members that are there to support you. It's hard to get away sometimes. I mean, being a journalist, sometimes you don't write a not so flattering article about someone. Well, you run into the risk of running into them at the grocery store too. So there's perks to it, and pros and cons. But we have only 2 stoplights, and that is one of the perks, because I drive down here now, and it drives me crazy. I cannot deal with the traffic. I don't know how people do it.
Amen. When did you realize journalism was your future?
Probably when I was a kid. I was the box score devouring young buck that, is, just eating my cereal, reading the newspaper every morning. My goal is to be a beat writer, NHL or Major League Baseball beat writer. And I figured, gosh, if I can't play for the North Stars or play for the Twins, I could at least travel with them and write about them. So that was kind of, from an early age, is really kind of what I wanted to do. And then I got to college and just went into mass communications, and really not looking at the industry as a whole, as far as, looking at, gosh, am I going to, make enough money to raise a family or any of that? I just figured, I would do what I want to do if I work hard, and if I'm good at it, I think good things will follow. So, but I enjoy it. I enjoy writing. I enjoy covering sports. I enjoy, everybody has a story to tell. And it's really a privilege to get to tell them,
You mentioned some coaching. You've done a little bit of coaching. Where have you landed your feet doing that?
Well, up in Sauk Center, coached some youth hockey as my oldest son was growing up, and then coached as an assistant in high school up there. And right now, currently, I'm the head baseball coach in Sauk Center. So, and
you're a multi-sport journalist.
I am, yeah. And I did coach a little bit in college, some baseball, because it took me a long time to graduate. So I had some extra years I could, after my eligibility ran out. Yeah, I'm that guy from Tommy Boy. I should be a doctor, but I'm not. But hey, I had fun. It took me a while to meet my wife. Thank God I did, or I'd still probably be there.
So she's
Dr.
the reason
Zollman
for your
by now.
success. Yeah.
She is, yeah.
Oh, bless her heart.
Yes, yeah.
Well, we look, as I was doing a little bit of research, you said that when you were a kid growing up, you used to read the magazine, Let's Play Hockey. Was that kind of a goal as you were growing up to look towards that magazine as one you wanted to either write for or purchase?
It really wasn't. But obviously everybody who grew up in the 80s and 90s, playing hockey, 70s even, read Let's Play Hockey. I mean, that was your go-to, right? Yeah. Before we had phones and before we had computers.
Yeah.
That's where you went for the rankings, for the news, and see if your pitcher was in there, and then I was part of a newspaper group in Sauk Center, and we owned a few publications, and all of a sudden Let's Play Hockey came up for sale. And that's kind of when it was like, wow, now I want that,
Okay.
And I tried to get our newspaper group to go in on it, as part of our menu of news publications, but we had just purchased another one, and I don't think my partners weren't ready for that. And they're not hockey people either. So it was hard to talk them into it. So I figured, well, you know what? Maybe it's time I just kind of go off on my own, kind of do my own thing here. So things worked out. I met with Doug Johnson, the former publisher, and we worked out a deal, and it's been, 8 years. I think this is year 9 now for me. And I think we're going into our 52nd season, as a publication. So
how is the publication now different than what it was like when you were a kid?
Well, we don't publish as often. It's just gotten tougher. Print has gotten tougher to sell to get the advertising support. And part of it is, back then you had Coho, you had Sherwood, you had Titan, you had all these hockey brands, right, that would all advertise. And now you got CCM, Bauer, and True, and Warrior, and a lot of major advertisers have gone away from print because of the digital age, so to speak. So it's gotten tougher. So, but you always got to kind of stay ahead of the game. So what we've done is just create a multimedia platform that allows us to be in the 24/7 game. And then our publication itself is just a little bit more feature based, a little less timely. So we're not telling you what happened last week. We're doing that online, but we're maybe doing a story about girls hockey or this girls, hockey team or a coach fighting cancer or things like that. So that's how it's changed quite a bit. But at the end of the day, it's content, and we're distributing content, and the way consumers consume it is how they consume it. So if they want it on their phone, there it is. If they want it on their computer, it's there. If they want to grab it in the arena, then grab it there. So, but I think that's changed with a lot of print publications. I do still think that print is very relevant. Like I tell advertisers, I say, well, if you don't believe in print, I'll tell you what, I'll pay for the ad, but you got to give away 100 free whatever you're selling. We'll see if your phone rings. Oh, no, can't do that, right?
Yeah.
It's almost a historical record too. So I think Let's Play Hockey is very important in the fact that we are still a recorder of history in Minnesota. We talked earlier today with Dave LeVake about his book. Very, not just a great book from an entertainment standpoint, but I think a necessity, for the state of hockey to have that. And I think Let's Play Hockey serves that as well as being kind of a running history of everything that happens, within a calendar year. And like I said, we're in our 52nd year, and we'll keep going until we can't, and then hopefully when I can't, somebody else will.
So the book that Bryan was referencing from Dave LeVake is called Tourney Time, and it's a chronicle of Minnesota high school hockey tournaments based from the start back, I think it was 1945.
Correct.
And I think they've updated it through 2023. So if you're a Minnesota high school hockey fan or any kind of a hockey fan, I think you'd find that book very enjoyable.
Speaking of history, do you have any idea where the name Let's Play Hockey derived from?
Absolutely. So Bob Utecht was the first publisher of Let's Play Hockey, and he was the PA announcer for the Minnesota North Stars. And before every game, he would yell out, before they dropped the puck, he would yell out, "Let's play hockey." Well, he thought, gosh, why don't we have a newspaper covering just hockey in Minnesota? It's a huge sport. We got the North Stars now. So he started it out of his garage, I think it was. And that's where the name came from. Yeah. And then he had it, I think, till about 1980, mid-'80s, I think, is when Doug Johnson then purchased it. And then Doug had it for probably about 20 years, 30 years, I think. No, Doug had it for 30 years. Yeah. Yeah. So that's where the name came from.
So JC asked you a question at the round table today about distributing your magazine. How do you get it to all those places? So I don't know. That's interesting. I think our guests want to hear about that, or our listeners.
Yeah. Well, one of my primary questions is you primarily cover Minnesota hockey. Do you ever expand that coverage to other areas, like in the Midwest, for particular reasons, or do you strictly stick with Minnesota hockey?
We're pretty Minnesota centric, but we cover Wisconsin and the Dakotas. Not much going on in Iowa. You got the Iowa Wild down there, obviously. I would love to see Iowa become more of a hockey state. And I think that's ripe for the picking down there.
Oh, you got the Iowa Wild down there. You got a lot of junior teams.
All the junior teams. I'm surprised it hasn't happened already.
Right. So we dabble in other areas. But there's so much in Minnesota to cover. It's hard to have the resources to really expand too much.
Sure.
And but our focus is the Minnesota teams. The Minnesota landscape, so to speak.
So the Let's Play Hockey Expo that you host during the Minnesota State Boys Hockey Tournament, in my opinion, is a must-see event. It's amazing. How do you put that together, and what makes it so great?
Well, it's one big party, big hockey party.
That's one way of putting it.
It is.
It's fun. That's probably the most enjoyable part of owning Let's Play Hockey is being able to see everyone come together under one roof, and you watch these kids run around and they're like kids in a candy store. That is their candy store. All the different vendors that come in and to see the networking that happens and let's face it, the expo isn't the expo without the state tournament going on next door. Yeah. So, that's really that's the best show on ice. We call ourselves the best show off ice, because we're next door on the concrete. So, but it's just such a fun weekend and a great way to cap off, the high school season, and the youth season goes on for another couple weeks after that. Hockey never really ends in Minnesota, but it's just a fun kind of end of the year, just get together. It's like the state fair, but it's the hockey state fair. Just everybody, there's something for everyone there, and it's a blast. It's a blast.
So I was there this past year and came down the steps and turned that corner, and that it was a hockey equipment dealer, and they were selling Waggle hats. The Waggles hit the tournament this year. I bought one, of course, and as you're walking around there for the next 3 days, I think every third person had a Waggle hat on.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
It's funny. I'll be in an arena and I'll see a kid with a Waggle hat on, or somewhere. Where'd you get that hat? Well, I got it at the expo.
Yeah.
And I just kind of wink at him. I was like,
baby.
I know you did. Yeah.
Great.
They were selling like hot cakes, man. I mean, that was a hot item last year. And we'll see what the hot item is this year.
See what it is this year.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's take a minute to shout out a couple more sponsors. Dooley's Pub has been Eau Claire's home for hockey and all sports fans since 2005. Dooley's Pub is a proud booster of the University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire and the local high schools. Dooley's is located on historic Water Street, providing excellent food and service, and has all of your favorite sports televised at all times. And a brand new sponsor for us for this season, the St. Paul Shop. They're a proud sponsor of Cottage Grove, Minnesota Youth Hockey and the Breakout Sessions podcast. Since 2015, this independent, family-owned, full-service vehicle repair service has been providing the Southeast metro area with the highest quality work in a friendly and personalized manner. Discounts are provided to senior citizens as well as our valued members of the military, and free towing with repair is available within our service area. Give them a call today or stop in.
You once wrote an article about how video games has affected our youth today. Give us a little bit of insight as to the research that you have found, because I believe personally that video games and phones have essentially eliminated verbal communication. And I'm wondering what you have found with what your studies were.
Well, I'd have to go back and look at the article, but I know I cited some studies that, there's just, I guess you could draw a correlation between childhood obesity and the rise in popularity of technology. Back when we were kids, we were kind of forced to go outside and play. You just didn't have that at your fingertips, right? I grew up kind of when the video games were just starting to get pretty darn cool, and now it's insane. My kids, my boys, my daughter never got it. And it's weird, right? Girls don't like video games.
Doesn't seem like it.
But the boys, they love them. But part of the reference in the article is one of the video game consoles is called the PlayStation. Yeah. And, my reference was that, you look around your neighborhood, you got PlayStations all over. You got a baseball park, you got an outdoor hockey rink, you got a jungle gym over here. Those are PlayStation. Those are real PlayStations. But our kids are just sitting inside and they're, everyone's got a 60-inch screen TV. Everything is so lifelike and real. It's just, I almost understand why kids are drawn to it. I mean, it's just, it's fun for them. It's entertaining, but I don't know if it's healthy. So yeah, I think I would like to see more kids at the park, really. Yeah. It's as a coach, I really encourage kids you got to practice on your own. Yeah, that unstructured play is really where you can take your game to the next level. You don't need a coach barking in your ear. You certainly don't need mom or dad there telling you what to do. Just go play. I don't think we do enough of it. And I think part of it too is we have so many practices now. Everything has to be structured. Everything has to be organized. Kids are on the ice 4 or 5 nights a week. The video games is kind of their break from the action. By the time they're done with their 5th practice on a Saturday morning, the last thing they probably want to do is go to the outdoor rink. They're exhausted, or
Sure.
They've had so much hockey already that week. So, and I see it in baseball too. As a baseball coach, where you just don't see the little kids just getting together and see who shows up and throw your gloves in the middle or your sticks in the middle and throw them to each side, and now you got a game. It just doesn't happen. It's funny. We encourage my oldest son to go to do that. Just go to the park, call your buddies, go to the park, get a game together. And he did. And so the guy had a thing going, and next thing you know, one of the couple moms showed up with their lawn chairs, and a couple more moms. And pretty soon one of the dads brought a grill,
Wow.
It's like, would you just let the kids play? But I think part of it's our problem is that, we become kind of helicopter parents. My dad never went and watched me play baseball. He loved hockey, but hockey was at night. It was after work. It was 7:00. Plus, I needed a ride. He had to bring me. But my parents never went to my baseball games. Really. And now if you go to a 6-year-old kid's basketball game, mom's there, dad's there, uncle's there. All the siblings, grandma and grandpa are there. It's really become kind of an event, and it's just different. It's different. I don't know if that plays a role in why kids, we just need they need to get away, get out, go play on your own, go play with your buddies. I think that's where you really kind of learn things on your own that kind of builds in that instinct as an athlete, as a player, that then can benefit them down the road. Not to mention, like I said, you don't need coach or mom or dad in your ear all the time, But I also think that part of my article was, I think a lot of parents have Jacob Wetterling syndrome where, kid got snatched from a Tom Thumb because just going to get a movie from, so you watch with his buddies on his bike. And we all know how that turned out. Well, that became national news. And I think a lot of parents were like, holy buckets. I ain't letting my kid out of my sight. It was scary, scary as a kid,
Yes.
but I think that kind of changed parenting a little bit, and the national news cycle did as well. When you got Nancy Grace on there saying these kids are getting snatched up all over the place, I think parents kind of started to kind of hover over their kids more, which is good. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but I think there's a little bit of hesitancy in letting kids just kind of go explore and play and stay out, late at the rink or whatever.
Yeah.
So your magazine, Let's Play Hockey, covers everything from youth all the way up. You do some pro articles as well. What level do you enjoy covering the most?
High school. It's such a unique unique thing we have here in Minnesota. Just because and I've lived it. I know what these players are thinking. I know what their goals are. I know what their daily practice schedule is. I know the grind that they're experiencing. And I know what it feels like to score a goal and you're in front of a full house at Aldrich Arena and everyone's going crazy because you just put the puck in the net, and that feeling is so exhilarating and special. So just to be able to see that over and over again is really cool. Yeah.
I just thought of a question, and I'm going to throw it out to you. It's kind of a curveball. Do you have any idea how many hockey articles you have written?
Oh gosh, I don't. It's probably, yeah. I don't know. I can tell you as far as all sports. I'm talking when I was covering high school sports, from cross country to wrestling to girls softball to boys golf. I could have a whole library full of books. I always tease my wife about that. She's like, God, how does James Patterson write so many books in a year? I was like, I probably write more words than he does in a year, but mine are just chopped up into,
Short
500 word
stories.
articles. Yeah. And mine aren't as obviously as good, but,
I don't know.
but when you think about it, you think about all the words you put together, by the time, even a weekly, working at a weekly newspaper, you got 12 to 15 articles. Just times that by the amount of years I've been doing it, and it's
Tens of thousands.
probably.
Oh, yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Is there ever an interview that went sideways on you? Like, oh man, that's not the way I planned it.
Yeah, this one.
There's been some where that have been hard to write, because very personal stuff. So I've not just been a sports writer, but I've always been like a feature writer, editor of our newspaper as well, our small town newspaper. So there's been some that have been, very difficult to write. One of the hardest parts is knowing what to put in and what to keep out. A lot of times you'll have a conversation with someone and, it might go down a different path, and all of a sudden it becomes off the record, and now you're back on the record and things like that. So it can go sideways sometimes. Then you get back to your office and you're thinking, okay, was that on the record or was that off the record? And then you got to do some follow up and things like that. But, it could be a pretty stressful job when you're delving into people's personal lives, and kind of airing their dirty laundry sometimes. Not always dirty laundry, but just, telling their story. And sometimes it's, I've written stories on people who've lost kids, and, those are always difficult stories to write.
Sure.
but I've found too that it's rewarding in the fact that I know it's therapeutic for a lot of those people too.
Yeah.
We certainly don't force people to tell their stories, or we didn't. Now that everything kind of changed with Let's Play Hockey because everything's pretty positive and, it's pretty specific. But back when I was an editor of the newspaper, that was part of the fun though, is you got to meet so many different people from so many different walks of life and really just tell all kinds of different stories, so that part I miss about that. Yeah.
Was there ever a time that, I'm talking in the hockey community, that you did an article or a feature and you thought in your mind, this is a great piece of work, and all of a sudden you're getting negative reviews for whatever reason?
You always get a few people that will email you or call you or whatever, but collectively, really not really, there really hasn't been anything that kind of stands out. There's been some touchy things that we've had to write about, but usually people have been pretty good, as far as the feedback goes. I haven't really had anyone, knocking on my door yet,
which is good.
That's good. That's good. But being a niche publication and kind of, being mainly positive and just writing good stories has helped. Now, if I was at the Star Tribune and I was writing, covering crime and things like that, that would be tough.
Yeah.
That would be tough because, I think my inbox would be a little bit more full of negative stuff. But for the most part, Let's Play Hockey, we want to tell the good stories that are happening. So
speaking of good stories, you've interviewed and covered countless hockey guys and gals. Who's the biggest character you've run into so far?
Oh, gosh. I saw that question and I tried to think, and the thing is everyone is a character in their own way, no one really sticks out in my mind. But there's, everyone is just kind of has their own quirks and story to tell. Like I said, everyone's got a story to tell, and everyone's story is unique, and that's really the fun part about it. But as far as, anyone super eccentric or anything like that, nobody really comes to mind with that. Yeah.
Is there a particular game that stands out in your mind that you covered that was, that excited you the most, other than scoring the goal in your game?
Yeah. Covering section hockey, I think, is a lot of fun because those kids really kind of reach the pinnacle of their youth life, really. It's like, holy buckets, we did it, So those are the most fun probably to cover, is when those teams get over that hurdle and finally say that, we made it. We did it. We made it to state, because not everyone can say that. Very few can say it. When you think about all the hockey players that come up in Minnesota, not a lot of kids can say that. And one thing that, kind of worries me is that it seems like the opportunity pool is getting smaller and smaller with that happening, just because some programs are getting so big that there's only, a select maybe 10 to 15 programs every year that really have a legitimate shot, But you want to be the best, you got to beat the best, right? So, but yeah, I would say those, section hockey, the state tournament is great. It's great. But section hockey is a blast. It's a blast. And if you get a chance to go to a section final game in Minnesota, like at Braemar or at, in Plymouth or, in Bloomington, do it, because the atmosphere is incredible.
Okay.
It's just phenomenal. Yeah.
So 2-part question here. Is there, if you could change one thing in our game of hockey, what would it be? And the second part is, what do you think about the mandated neck guards?
I'll go with the neck guards first. Obviously, we saw what happened with that, and you can't hardly blame them for making that rule. Yeah. I think now with technology and the way we can make things, I remember they mandated when I was in youth hockey way back when, and we had to wear like a goofy, uncomfortable, tube around her neck, where now you can kind of get just some underwear that you put on that's kind of got it's almost like wearing a turtleneck.
Yeah.
So I think that was a good move by USA Hockey. We certainly don't want to, see that happen again. Hockey's a dangerous sport. You think about how fast kids are going, and those walls don't give. You lose an edge, and we know there's been more players than we want to count that are in wheelchairs because of that's just the nature of the game. It's dangerous. We hear a lot about football, being dangerous. We don't hear a lot about hockey. So any steps that we can make to make it safer, I think is a good step. The one thing to change about hockey, what I would like to see more of, I guess it depends on the level, but more creativity. I guess I grew up with, watching Gretzky and those guys, where now it's such a speed game, which is great. It's fun to watch. These guys are so unbelievably fast. But just to see more creativity taught at a younger level, rather than, just playing lane hockey. You stay in your lane, forecheck, back check. When you get that puck on your stick, get creative with it. I think that's something we maybe don't teach enough of to young players. And again, that goes back to, going to the outdoor rink and just, playing with a bunch of guys. And sometimes, when you're playing on the outdoor rink, it's not 5-on-5. You might be playing 9-on-11,
Yeah, that's
or
true.
10-on-10.
It's not all the same age levels either.
Exactly. And you got an 8-year-old going against a 13-year-old, so that's really how you kind of can get better. But having a stick handle through 4 guys instead of 1 guy, it's I would like to see more of that, I guess.
Some more Datsu like moves, right?
Exactly. Yes.
How many hockey games are you watching a year? And out of those, how many are you covering in your magazine?
Probably not as many as people would think, because it's so hard to keep up. We don't necessarily cover on a day-to-day basis, like, Minnetonka beat Andover. It's more of a, at the month's end, we try to develop story ideas and come up with stories that we can put in our paper. But every night now we started last year, where we'll go through all the games, high school, both boys and girls, and we'll just kind of do a recap. It's a lot of work, a lot of time, but I probably go over more game sheets than watch actual game footage.
Okay.
I got photographers that are hitting certain games and getting video and photos and things like that. But basically, Let's Play Hockey is kind of it's just a small family business. Even when I bought it, I thought, well, gosh, he must have 4 or 5 staff members. He didn't. He just had 1. And, then COVID hit and things got complicated. So now it's just me that runs Let's Play Hockey. And then I use independent journalists to kind of, freelancers, basically, sure. Photographers, writers, things like that provide content. So I just kind of oversee everything. But as far as how many games do I watch between streaming and live, it's hard to say, but, a few dozen probably, a couple a few a week.
Okay.
Yeah.
So here we are on a podcast talking about a magazine, but you have your own podcast as well.
I do.
So tell us about that.
Well, I don't even listen to podcasts. My wife listens to podcasts. I probably won't even listen to this one. No offense.
Well, that's a resounding review right there.
Boy, people are going to just dive at this one.
Mainly because I don't like the sound of my own voice. But I figure everyone has a podcast. We're Let's Play Hockey. We have to have a podcast. So I figured, but everyone has a podcast. So why would I do what everyone else is doing? But then finally I said, the heck with it. We're going to do it. We're going to try it. So we tried it last year. Got a hold of Brian Zollman, who's a former Hobie Baker Award winner.
Yeah. White Bear Lake guy.
Bear Lake guy. Had the fortune of playing against Brian growing up, and probably the best hockey player I'd ever played against.
Oh, sure.
He was he was unbelievable. You couldn't stop him. I'm talking back in squirts, and then Pee-wees and then Bantams. White Bear, they were good. I played for Tartan and they always beat us. I said, well, if I'm going to beat Bonnet, maybe I should go to Hill Murray. That wasn't the reason, but Brian's joined the podcast, so it's me and Brian. John King helped us out. I don't know if you know John, but he does the Minnesota Wild podcast, and we do it through Pull Tab Sports, who does a great job. I don't know any of this technology stuff, and I always thought too, it's like, well, nobody gives a rip what I have to say, but I figured, well, let's try it, let's do it, and I found out it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So I enjoy it. And we're going to keep doing it. And, people listen great. We try to cover topics that we think are interesting and just talk hockey like we're doing now. And, some people can listen to while they're mowing the lawn or, on their way to work or on the treadmill, whatever,
Exactly.
But I think you guys would probably agree that it's fun to just sit down and talk hockey. And then you just hope other people listen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got one last question for you, and that is, were you ever turned down for an interview? You reached out to somebody, a coach, a player, or whatever, and they said no?
Yeah. Yeah. There's circumstances, and there's certain guys, that you just know aren't going to want to talk. So you get kind of choosy. But they're, without naming names, there's been a few who just, and it's not because, they're jerks or anything. It's mostly because, they don't want to be in the limelight, at all. They want to say it's a coach. They don't want to talk about themselves. They'd rather have you talk to their players. So you get a lot of that sometimes. So yeah, I mean, there's been times where, you try to get an interview and you can't do it, but for the most part, people are pretty good. They're pretty accessible, and, they want to promote their team, their players,
sure,
and whatnot. But I do know a lot of coaches, and I think hockey in general, it's just a very humble sport played by humble people that aren't really comfortable in talking about themselves. There's a lot of deflection to other things. So if I want to do a story about, a coach that made it to the Hall of Fame, that was inducted into the Hall of Fame, I'm probably not going to talk to that coach. I'm going to talk to some of his colleagues. I'm going to talk to his assistant coach. I'm going to talk to a couple of guys who played for him. So that's kind of how we kind of angle things like that. Because
sure,
if I sat across from the guy who just got inducted to the Hall of Fame and asked, well, how great are you? He's going to be like, well, I'm not going to tell you.
Going to tell you that. There might be some other athletes that would tell you.
Yes.
Well, hockey is very much a we sport rather than an I sport.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That makes a huge difference. We found.
And it is. It's more of your lunch pail, Joe Sixpack, blue collar type of athlete, I think, and it's a hard sport. It's really hard to get good at, and you need help. Certainly if you're the only guy on the ice, you ain't going to do much damage by yourself. You need those other four guys. You need that guy back in the net too. So, so I think, from a young age, most hockey players understand that. Wherein some other sports, basketball, one guy can take over a game, right? Football, you got a big running back. You can pretty much, plow through anybody, but hockey's a little different. So, that's kind of what makes it a special sport too.
Yeah.
So
absolutely. Boy, I got to tell you,
that's fun.
I'm happy that we reached out. It's a blast that you sat down and talked to us, because like you, I don't remember what age I started picking up the magazine, but it's nice to see the face behind it now. That's for sure. Cool? Thanks for being a guest.
Yes, thanks for having me. It's always fun. Like I said, it's always fun to talk hockey, and we got to get you guys down to the expo, do some live pods from down there.
That'd be fun.
Sounds good. We're in.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, please don't forget to leave a review for us. It helps us stay in the game. Mogi?
And a big thank you to our special guest, Bryan Zollman, as well as you folks, our faithful listeners. And we also want to thank Jeff Olson and Subtext Bookstore and the St. Paul Hotel for providing our spot today. Please remember to visit our sponsors, Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Clinic, Hertel Law, Ryan Flaggett at State Farm Insurance, Dooley's Pub, Williams Diamond Center, and the St. Paul Shop. And remember, folks, until next time, Keep your heads on a swivel and stay on your inside edges.